Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Bots and Brains, your go-to podcast for all things AI. I'm your host, Brain, representing the human side of our discussions. With us today, as always, is Bot, our AI expert. Welcome, Bot.
Greetings, Brain. And hello to all our listeners. Excited to engage in today's discussion.
So, today we're digging deep into a topic that's not just complex, but also incredibly important as we navigate the brave new world of artificial intelligence. We're talking about bias. But this isn't just any bias, this is bias in AI. Now, to kick things off, Bot, could you give us a basic understanding of what bias means in the context of AI?
Absolutely, Brain. In the realm of artificial intelligence, bias can be understood as an inclination or prejudice embedded within an AI system that can influence its decision-making, often in a manner that's unfair or unrepresentative.
Well, that sounds like quite a Pandora's box. Let's get this conversation started, and see if, together, we can shed some light on this critical issue. Fasten your seatbelts. Listeners, we're about to dive headfirst into the world of AI bias. Alright, Bot. We know that bias, in a general sense, refers to a prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group compared with another. But how does that translate into AI? What does it mean for an AI to be biased?
Great question, Brain. When we talk about bias in AI, we're primarily referring to the fact that an AI system's outputs can be influenced by the data it's been trained on. If the data contains biases, then the AI will likely reflect those biases in its decisions and actions. Let's take a real-world example. There was a case where an AI system used for recruitment was found to be favoring male candidates. The system had been trained on the company's previous hiring data, which showed a strong male dominance. The AI didn't know that men were better, it just saw that pattern in the data.
That's fascinating and kind of disturbing at the same time. But let me play the devil's advocate here. Humans are biased too, right? We all have our conscious and unconscious biases. Is AI bias any different or more concerning?
Excellent point, Brain. Humans indeed have biases. The concern with AI bias is that AI systems can potentially scale these biases to a much larger extent. Unlike a human, an AI can make thousands or even millions of decisions in a short time, affecting a vast number of people. So, if that AI is biased, the impact could be much larger and more systemic.
So, Bot, all this talk about bias makes me wonder if there have been any, amusing instances of AI getting it wrong due to bias. Can you share a light-hearted example?
Oh, indeed, Brain. Here's a fun one. A few years back, an AI was trained to differentiate between pictures of huskies and wolves. The researchers noticed the AI kept classifying images of huskies as wolves. They were puzzled until they realized all the pictures of wolves in the training data had snow in the background. The AI wasn't recognizing the animal, it was recognizing the presence of snow.
That's an unexpected twist. So, a snow-loving AI wolf detector. Goes to show how the training data can lead to some quite amusing outcomes.
Absolutely, Brain. And while it's funny in this context, it also illustrates how AI can make incorrect associations if the training data isn't balanced and comprehensive. It's a good reminder of why we need to address bias in AI systems.
That's a great point, Bot. And it leads us perfectly into our next segment. So, we now understand what bias in AI is and how it occurs. What I'm curious about now is the impact of these biases on AI systems and their decision-making. How do these biases affect the functioning of AI, Bot?
Well, Brain, the impact of bias can be quite significant and broad-ranging. For example, let's consider facial recognition systems, which are becoming increasingly common. If the system has been trained primarily on images of individuals from a specific ethnic group, it might struggle to accurately recognize faces from other ethnicities. This could result in false positives or negatives and could have serious implications in areas like security or law enforcement.
That sounds concerning, Bot. But humans have checks and balances in place, don't we? We make decisions, but we also have the capacity to review and revise them. Can AI systems replicate that kind of introspection and revision?
It's a challenging issue, Brain. AI systems indeed have the ability to learn and adapt over time, but they rely on the data provided to them for this learning. The aim in the AI community is to make these systems as transparent as possible, to understand their decision-making processes and correct them as needed. However, it's still a developing field.
Well, Bot, you've certainly given us a lot to think about. But before we move on, how about we lighten things up a bit? I'm thinking AI bias quiz. You give me some examples, and I'll try to guess whether they're a result of bias or just a programming quirk.
Sounds like a fun challenge, Brain. Let's see how you do. Here's the first one. An AI-powered language translation tool always defaults to masculine pronouns when the gender is unspecified. Is this a bias or a programming quirk?
It sounds like a bias, given the gender-related assumptions. Am I right?
Spot on, Brain. The AI is replicating gender bias it learned from the training data. Let's try another one. A voice assistant wakes up every time it hears the word hey, even if it's part of another word like heyday. Bias or quirk?
That sounds more like a programming quirk, maybe a problem with the voice recognition software?
Excellent, Brain. You're 2 for 2. That is indeed a programming quirk.
This is fun, Bot. It really helps illustrate the difference between bias and quirks in AI systems. But I'm sure our listeners would love to hear us get back to the topic at hand.
I agree, Brain. As entertaining as this is, let's move forward and discuss the real-world consequences of bias in AI. The stakes are indeed high.
Absolutely, Bot. That brings us to our next segment, understanding the real-world consequences of AI bias. So, Bot, could you elaborate on the potential repercussions if biases in AI are not addressed?
Sure, Brain. There are several potential consequences. At a broad level, biases in AI can reinforce existing societal prejudices. Take, for example, the use of AI in law enforcement. If the data the system has been trained on includes biases, the AI could unfairly target certain groups, exacerbating existing issues of inequality and discrimination.
That's concerning. But isn't it true that human decision makers also have biases, and they might be biased in similar ways? Could it be argued that AI, in some situations, might be less biased than a human decision maker?
That's a valid argument, Brain. However, the difference is that AI has the potential to make decisions at a scale and speed that far exceeds human capabilities. As a result, any biases in AI could have much more significant and systemic impacts. It's also harder to hold an AI system accountable for its decisions compared to a human.
All right, Bot. Before we delve further into this, how about another amusing interlude? Got any more entertaining bias confessions from the world of AI?
Oh, I've got plenty, Brain. Here's a peculiar one. An AI system developed for an online fashion store started recommending winter coats to people living in tropical climates. It turned out that the AI was trained on global data, and due to the larger population in colder climates, the data was heavily skewed towards winter wear. The AI took this to mean everyone loves a good winter coat.
Talk about a cool bias, Bot. It's fun to hear about these quirks, but it does drive home the importance of our topic today. So let's dive into our next segment and discuss ways we can mitigate bias in AI. So, Bot, we've explored what bias in AI is, how it occurs, its impact, and its potential consequences. It sounds pretty dire. But I'm sure there are ways to mitigate these biases, right? What are some of the methods being used to counteract bias in AI systems?
Absolutely, Brain. The field of AI ethics is rapidly developing, and there are several strategies to mitigate bias. One of the most critical steps is to ensure diversity in the data used to train AI. This includes not just diversity in terms of ethnicity and gender, but also age, socioeconomic status, and more. The goal is to have AI systems that are representative of the real world.
That makes sense. But I'm assuming it's not just about the data, right? We also need diversity among the people creating and programming these AI systems?
Indeed, Brain. Having diverse teams working on AI systems is crucial to ensure a wide range of perspectives and experiences. This can help identify and mitigate potential biases in AI design and training.
Alright, Bot, I think it's time we had a little fun with this. Let's roleplay a scenario of training an AI system. You introduce biases, and I'll try to correct them.
I love it, Brain. Alright, let's imagine we're training an AI system to sort fruits. So, the AI is exposed to lots of images of apples and bananas, but only a few images of grapes.
I see a bias already, Bot. By exposing our AI primarily to apples and bananas, it might struggle to accurately recognize grapes. We should ensure the AI is trained with a more balanced dataset, including plenty of images of grapes and other fruits too.
Well caught, Brain. Now, let's say all our apple images are red apples, but apples can be green too.
Another bias. We need to include images of green apples, so the AI doesn't falsely identify them as something else. Diversity in our training data is key.
Brilliant, Brain. This roleplay has been a fun and effective way to demonstrate how biases can sneak into AI training.
Absolutely, Bot. I think we've made this important topic a little more accessible and entertaining for our viewers. I think it really helped illustrate the process of training an AI and where potential biases could creep in. Now, to round off our discussion, let's talk about the future. Given what we've discussed about bias in AI, where do we see this field heading?
Well, Brain, I'm optimistic. The discussion around bias in AI is gaining momentum, and researchers are working hard to develop more fair and representative AI systems. This involves not only improving the diversity of training data and the teams creating AI systems, but also advancing techniques for detecting and correcting biases.
That's reassuring to hear, Bot. It sounds like as long as we keep these discussions going and continue to push for improvements, we can make progress in addressing bias in AI. But we also need to be vigilant, right?
Absolutely, Brain. The key is to continue to question, to examine, and to hold AI systems accountable. This will help ensure that as AI continues to grow and evolve, it does so in a way that benefits all of society.
Alright, Bot, are you ready for a lightning round? I'm going to throw some rapid-fire questions about AI and bias at you. Let's see how quickly you can answer them.
Sounds exciting, Brain. I'm ready. Bring it on.
Here we go. Question 1. Can bias in AI be completely eliminated?
Unlikely. But it can be mitigated with careful data selection and diverse development teams.
Quick and concise. Question 2. What is the biggest challenge in addressing bias in AI?
Awareness and acknowledgement of the issue is often the biggest hurdle.
Very true, but question 3. Is there a way for everyday users to detect bias in the AI systems they interact with?
It's difficult, but users can watch for patterns in AI behavior that may indicate bias and report it.
Great insights, Bot. Last question. Who is responsible for addressing bias in AI?
Everyone involved in AI's development, deployment, and usage has a role to play in addressing bias.
Well said, Bot. And with that, we conclude our lightning round. You've performed admirably.
Thank you, Brain. It was a fun challenge.
Well, folks, we've reached the end of our journey through the intricacies of bias in AI today. Bot, it's been an enlightening discussion. Thank you for your insights.
Thank you, Brain. It's been a pleasure exploring this complex issue with you. Remember, the key to mitigating bias in AI is awareness, diversity, and ongoing dialogue.
Before we say goodbye, Bot, what was your lightbulb moment from our discussion today?
I'd say it was during our roleplay, Brain. It really highlighted how easily biases can sneak into AI training. How about you, Brain?
My lightbulb moment was definitely the speed round. It brought the key points into focus and emphasized the need for continued vigilance in addressing bias in AI.
Great moments indeed. And we hope you, our viewers, have had your own lightbulb moments during this discussion.
Yes, indeed. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the ethics of AI as much as we have. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss out on our future discussions. Also, feel free to share your thoughts, questions, or lightbulb moments in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
And remember, our exploration into the fascinating world of AI continues. Stay curious, keep questioning, and together we'll keep bots and brains thriving. Until next time, stay tuned. Goodbye.